Hey there, fellow wanderers. Imagine, if you will, a dense tapestry of tangled branches and leaves stretching across a seemingly endless expanse. The air is thick and earthy, saturated with the scent of damp moss and decomposing leaves. Beneath your feet, the ground is soft, almost sponger, quiet testament to centuries of fallen foliage crumbling into fertile soil. A chill wraps around your shoulders like an old cloak, seeping into the cracks of your modern defenses. This isn't a manicured park, it's a medieval woodland, untamed, unpredictable, and brimming with beauty and danger alike. This is not a fairy tale. Here, shadows twist like creatures, and a single howl in the distance can change everything. Were the old folktales warnings or just fevered dreams? Perhaps both. But one thing is certain, you probably won't survive this. So, before we dive deeper, I ask only this. If this kind of raw, unvarnished truth speaks to you, click like, hit subscribe, and leave a trace of yourself in the comments. Tell me your city, your time, your state of mind. Now, dim the lights. Let the hum of your fan blend with the wind of centuries past. Let's begin. And remember, in medieval times, even survival was a luxury. The forest envelops you completely. It's easy to see why so many tales of yore speak of disorientation and fear. The trees tower above, their branches knitting together to form a cathedral of sorts, a natural ceiling that both conceals and protects. You find yourself on a narrow footpath, created by countless feet over the years, which now snakes its way deeper into the heart of this ancient woodland. Every crunch of leaves underfoot, every snap of a twig, echoes in the stillness, reverberating through the haze of morning fog that clings to the earth like an endless sea. The notion of keeping to the paths takes on whole new meaning here, where straying too far could mean meeting any manner of misfortune. You see, medieval Europe had a peculiar relationship with its forests, not just as sanctuaries of resources like wood and game, but as keepers of mysteries and dangers. These were places where one could vanish without a trace, whether due to an unfortunate encounter with a wild animal or the sudden onset of a fierce storm. It's hard to imagine now, under your blankets as you listen, but this wilderness was once home to wolves, bears, and wild boars, all vying for the same resources you need to survive. And yet, despite all these hidden perils, the forest also offers moments of profound beauty and tranquility. As you advance further into the wooded depths, the sunlight filters through the canopy in dappled patterns, shifting and shimmering like liquid gold. An ordinary stroll turns into an immersive experience, as you find yourself becoming hyper-aware of the natural world's rhythms. A gentle breeze sets the trees into a gentle sway, creating a melodic rustling that soothes as much as it bewilders. What sounds almost poetic here was a daily struggle for those relying on the forest for livelihood. Contrary to romanticized portrayals, woodlands in medieval times were not considered endless resources. Many areas had restrictions on what could be taken and when, thanks to forest laws decreed by kings and nobility. It was a delicate balance of taking enough to survive without incurring the wrath of higher powers, a complex dance between mortal necessity and royal decree. Historians still argue whether these forest laws were enacted to genuinely protect natural resources or merely to police the poor. Either way, the layman's understanding of their environment extended beyond sustenance, delving into deep, almost spiritual respect for the earth that nurtured them. Without the hindrance of modern distractions, your senses would sharpen dramatically. You might notice the symphony of birdsong, each note clear and distinct. The varied calls provide a soundtrack to the woodland's orchestrated chaos, an unseen guide that could lead you toward water, food, or danger, depending on the bird's reactions. The knowledge of such a serenade was crucial. The difference between hunger and a full belly, or pastures and peril. It's within this forested kingdom that your journey begins, where every shadow and sound tells its own fragment of a story. Welcome to the medieval woodlands, an endless expanse that holds both promise and peril, its mysteries as deep as its roots. Prepare yourself to step deeper into this world, where truth blends seamlessly with myth, and where living another day is never guaranteed. As the light of dawn breaks through the canopy, you continue your journey deeper into the medieval woodland. The forest greets the day with a flourish of activity as the first beams of sunlight filter through the dense leaves, casting long, reaching shadows on the forest floor. The air is filled with the fresh scent of dew and the subtle aroma of earth mixed with pine. You find yourself acutely aware of the energy shift brought by the early morning, a time when the forest seems to renew its vow of life. The intense morning chorus of chirping birds echoes unmistakably through the trees. Each call signals the start of a new day, a natural alarm clock that cannot be snoozed or ignored. Medieval people were highly attuned to these rhythms. The rising of the sun dictated the start of work, the chase for food, and the cycle of survival that marked their lives. You might chuckle at this primitive wake-up call compared to modern conveniences, but in the medieval world, nature and necessity defined the pace of life. You continue your trudging along the beaten path, where every step feels as if you're weaving forward in a landscape shaped by countless journeys before yours. This trail, narrow and winding, marks the intersection of human transit and nature's persistence. Forest paths like this would see travelers, traders, and woodland folk alike, all treading cautiously to avoid the legacies of missteps, slipping into a hidden bog or encountering a low-hanging branch that could knock you senseless. Yet, as you wander, your mind cannot escape the pragmatic demands of the day: hunger, thirst, shelter. Historians still argue whether medieval folks sought these essentials with more urgency than we do now, as we often find our basic needs easily met and distractions aplenty. You'd be watching natural cues, like the way moss grows thickly on the north side of trees, a crude compass to maneuver through the forest's twisting embrace. Unlike the ground beneath your mattress at home, every inch of the medieval woodland is wrought with potent challenges. Imagine the mind of a medieval woodsman, eking out an existence with tools far cruder than the modern-day Swiss Army knife. Every day is a deliberate effort. The stakes are high. Missteps could lead to harsh penalties, whether imposed by the forest itself or those who claim dominion over it. In such an environment, time is measured less by hours or meals, and more by the sun's position in the sky. The mid-morning light casts longer sunbeams through the trees. Remember earlier when we talked about navigating with sounds? Well, the current cacophony becomes a guide as vital as any medieval map, which often barely resembled the territory it claimed to portray. Each rustle might mean the emergence of prey, or an approaching threat. Being attuned to these details means having the upper hand in this game of survival against the relentless ticking of nature's clock. In this world, carrying a handful of nuts, smoking meats, or hoarding mushrooms takes on an importance akin to having gold coins. Gathering food isn't just about sustenance, but about weighing it against time. Hours spent foraging are hours not available for mending clothes or woodworking decisions, and dilemmas that transcend the luxury of time management apps. Food, shelter, and plans are decisions intertwined into an art of living that takes generations to master. Noon approaches, signifying the peak of the sun's journey, an invitation for rest in the shaded nooks to hide from the intensity of the high midday heat. For you, this means a moment's reprieve in the shade, letting the breeze cool you just enough. It's during this time you'd sort through any foraged goods, perhaps a small pile of berries or roots that need proper identification before they can become a meal. Imagine the sharp eye required when poison and nourishment look remarkably similar, a skill set laden with trial-by-error repercussions that are less amusing when you're the one in error. The forethought for dinner would begin as the shadows start to stretch long, an invisible stopwatch ticking against the daylight remaining. Here you learn at a fundamental level why early to bed and early to rise was more than just an adage. Catching beams of waning light before dusk meant weaving through shadows, identifying edible plants, and plotting your return trip before it becomes a sprint to escape the tightening cold grip of night. As the day begins to close, the light shifting once again into soft amber hues, you inch closer to sunset. There's comfort in the predictability of this cycle, a nod to the human capacity to adapt, persisting solely through witnessing the wisdom of untamed surroundings. Yet, this is floating on the surface of life. The undercurrent shadows a truth, that here, amidst this ancient woodland, survival is much like navigating a labyrinth. The closer you think you are to understanding it, the obscurer it becomes. As dusk edges in, you find yourself drawing parallels between the expected and unexpected, learning that in the depths of history's enigmas, you become a patient student, quizzical and impressed at the ordinariness of magic and the magic of ordinary struggle. With the sun sinking ever lower into the western horizon, the woodland takes on a different gizzier landscape poised on the edge of shadow and anticipation. This is when the hunter's heart starts to beat faster. The medieval hunter, a solitary figure wrapped in leather and intuition, becomes acutely aware of every rustle, every flutter, and every whisper of wind. As you step into this role, the transformation from passive observer to active participant in the forest's eternal dance becomes complete. In this world, hunting is not a sport. It's a necessity, a delicate balance between predator and prey. You walk lightly, conscious of every twig underfoot, lest you alert the forest's denizens to your presence too soon. Your bow is a humble tool, but it holds the promise of a meal, an opportunity given by the forest and its bounty. In those days, archery was as indispensable as breathing. Historians still argue whether the bow or the humble snare caught more medieval meals. Yet none dispute the bow's prime position in a hunter's arsenal. Your quarry varies with the Cezina plump rabbit, a skittish deer, or, if fate allows, a boar. It's funny to think how the forest's inhabitants have their routines, much like your own. A flash of movement catches your eye, and you feel the adrenaline coil, like a spring inside you. Tracking a deer means understanding the language of bent grass, snapped twigs, and droppings. Signposts writ large upon the natural world for those who care, or perhaps dare, to read them. Yet, beyond the thrill and utility, hunting serves as a bridge to understanding. The medieval hunter is deeply intertwined with the lore and rites of the land, bound to respect even as you pursue. Superstitions are rife. Who wouldn't feel a touch superstitious in a place where the shadows of wolves and spirits flicker at the edge of your vision? Before making the critical shot, there might be a quiet request sent skyward, an invocation that the spirits of the forest guide your hand and deem you worthy of this sustenance. Drawing the bowstring and taking aim is as much about patience as it is skill. Imagine the quiet of the forest as your heartbeat echoes in your ears. You must contend with the forest's constant changes, the way the wind shifts direction without warning, the deceptive play of light and shadow on a buck's coat. The shot is everything. It is the culmination of every sense honed to a fine, precise point. The moment you release, the forest holds its breath with you. The heart pounds in thrilling anticipation as you watch the arrow glide forward, a whisper of intent in the grander story of life and survival. Whether the arrow finds its mark or not, you're reminded of the day's waxing and waning, the intricacies of coexistence within this wooded realm. Successful or not, the hunt encompasses more than skill or luck. It's part of a symphony of will and nature. Should your arrow meet its target, it becomes a silent expression of gratitude, prayer sealed with action and acknowledgement, inspired by a world where every life taken animates another. As the light continues to fade, you feel the brushwood close around you again, the hunt drawing to a necessary close. With dusk's arrival, decisions are influenced by encroaching darkness, hinting at the forest's alter ego space, less nurturing and more daunting. You make your way back, your steps weaving through pathways known by instinct, the fading light. A constant reminder that the forest at night is a different creature entirely. In these twilight hours, your thoughts might wander to the broader links of humanity's natural ancestry, deeply rooted in such ancient hunts and ways. Humor might cross your mind. To it certainly adds a layer of levity to think that back then, just as now, someone might have exaggerated their catch's size back home, though repercussions were far more immediate if the pantry remained empty. By now, your respect for the balance of life within the forest deepens further hunt and hunted, predator and prey, a balance as fragile as the thread of light fading from the sky. You begin to understand not just the how, but the why of the hunt itself. It's a symbiotic relationship, a truth that the medieval woodsman knew well, a lesson echoing through time. As you step beyond the day's shadows, the world outside the forest may seem distant, like some dream from which you've momentarily awoken. The medieval woodland has a pull few can resist. It's a place of realization where survival is neither grim duty nor triumph, but a testament to those who walk these trails before you and those who will tread them still. As your journey through the medieval woodland continues, the day's hunting may or may not have yielded its intended bounty. Regardless, you find yourself pondering the subtler art of survival, the utilization of nature's apothecary cupboard, full of fragrant herbs, elusive mushrooms, and curious roots. It is in these aspects that you learn about the herbalist's world, a realm as nuanced and essential as that of the hunter, and perhaps just as dangerous. Step into the herbalist's shoes, a role no less crucial for survival than the hunter, albeit with a different set of skills. You might picture them crouched by the forest floor, surrounded by an array of plants, each one catalogued meticulously in their mind for its properties and potential uses. The air here is heavy with the scent of mint and chamomile, with wild peppermint feuding for dominance among the subtle notes of marjoram and thyme. These scents are comforting and familiar, like an old book printed in blossoms and leaves. Imagine, wandering through these green cathedrals of possibility, the herbalist carries not just a satchel for their finds, but the accumulated knowledge of generations, lore passed down not in print, but through whispered instruction and careful observation. Yet, for all their expertise, they tread carefully among shadowy leaves. Medieval times were notorious for unpredictable outcomes from even the most innocuous-looking plants. Remember that medieval surgery involved copious amounts of ground herbs and resins, even if they couldn't precisely manage dosages like we do today with a pill or a digital readout. In a world devoid of antibiotics and easy analgesics, these forest gleanings are vital components of health maintenance. You'd recognize plants like feverfew or St. John's wort, both known individually for properties that either uplift or steady the mind and body. However, the forest harbors more cryptic flora-like nightshade or foxglove, plants that dwell in the imprecise realm between remedy and poison. And if you find yourself confused by all this herbal complexity, you're not alone. Historians still argue whether medieval herbalists effectively differentiated between mere placebo and actual pharmacological effects. Curiously, the role of the herbalist blends scientific study with elements of the mystical. The mysteries of plants were once deeply intertwined with superstition. Villagers might attribute an herbal poultice's success to local spirits being appeased, rather than chemistry of tannins and alkaloids. Straddling the line between fact and folklore, the herbalist's labours often spurred tales of magic or witchcraft, in days when little separated the credible from the inscrutable. It's dusk now, and you pause under the boughs of a spreading oak, its ancient branches reaching out like arms of wisdom. Consuming a forest plant becomes not a mere meal, but an act of trust between you and the natural world. Trust that your identification was correct, that your knowledge aligns with the tools wielded by those medieval gatherers. Within a caution, lightly wearied by the haunting tales of others' mistakes, like the infamous and grimly instructive stories of villagers gone mad from fungi-laden bread, you sift through leaves with singular focus. The herbalist's carefully crafted sachets weigh upon your awareness of how every choice in these woods magnifies under a sharp practice of attentiveness and care. Gathering such greenery isn't just scavenging. It's a practice of observation, of seeing with the eyes of history and nature as hard-learned allies. You gaze upon a purple foxglove, standing tall among its more mundane companions. To think that within its petals lie both heart-saving compounds and mortal danger is humbling. And like with many forest endeavours, the line between life and death can be as fine as a single leaf unfurling. Humour plays its part too, reminding you that in this world of high stakes and low comforts, perhaps the herbalist had it relatively easier compared to the wealthy trying to fashion crocodile dung sunscreen. With the evening shadows lengthening, the herbalist's time in the woods winds down. Bundles of herbs safely at hand, you retreat, aware of the enduring patience and knowledge that characterized those who once walked these paths before you. The interplay between wisdom and nature continues as you leave behind realms that seem both distant and familiar, echoes of a time when every step was an interaction with the earth itself. As you turn away from the grove, the realization crystallizes respect not only for what is harvested and used, but for the forest as an entity, vast and varied, a reminder that in any age, within every leaf, he both the promise of tomorrow and whispers of yesteryear. As the forest begins to cloak itself in twilight, you feel the prickling awareness of creatures that rule the darker hours. Among these rulers is the wild boar, a formidable beast of muscle and tusk, lurking within the depths of this medieval woodland. The lure of folklore and adventure shrouds these animals in an aura that's both fearsome and fascinating, a blend that makes them seem straight out of an exaggerated yarn shared around a fireside. To those unfamiliar with the rough-hewn edges of the medieval forest's social fabric, encountering a wild boar poses a mix of risk and challenge. They weren't just any forest creatures. These beings had resumes filled with agility, resilience, and the occasional streak of unpredictable aggression, stamping them as legends among forest fauna. Thick with muscle, low to the ground, and hairy like an ancient tale's enigmatic guardian, the wild boar does not retreat readily. Your pulse quickens with thoughts of facing down such formidable creature. For many, this beast symbolized both bounty and danger rolled into one. The cunning of a hunter was revealed not just through skill with a bow or spear, but in the ability to outthink a creature that seemed to possess an innate understanding of the forest far better than its human counterparts. Eyes sharp and ears keener still, the boar turns its environment into a playground of potential ambushes and hidden retreats. While preparing to venture deeper, apocalyptic visions of clamoring boars might cross your mind. Thankfully, these creatures typically have little interest in chasing after humans without provocation. However, should you attract their attention, the charge of a boar becomes a visceral reality of speed and determination. Yet, humor whispers that you might outdistance one, especially when wearing your finest running shoes, a luxury not afforded to our medieval forebears, who wore cumbersome attire better suited for workshops than woodland sprints. In the medieval period, the boar hunt was often a noble pursuitone, more thing that separated the social classes. Serfs didn't usually find themselves embroiled in boar territory by choice, but compensations for skilled hunters could mean an occasional foray to secure meat that fed families and created communal bonds. The pursuit itself was an event, often featuring elaborate chases hinting at sport, behind which survival necessity loomed with predatory poise. Right about now, in peering deeper into the forest, you'd imagine the oppressive thud of hooves on earth, and recall tales of high-born hunters clad in finery and gallant galloping, woven into the very fabric of medieval storytelling. And that's where the quirkiness of historical truth becomes a potent blend of theatre with fact. Historians still argue whether the boar was more feared or revered in these chapters of history, but their presence shaped societal interactions with the woods. Protective tusks and formidable weight aside, these creatures embedded themselves within the cultural tapestry, appearing in coats of arms and epic tales, warriors in their own right. The sun now dips below the horizon, casting long shadows across the forest floor as you cautiously step forward, mindful of the potent legacy this creature holds. Your imagination paints swaths of shadowy paths, where hunters might then lay traps or outwit the beast. Meanwhile, the softening light signals potential evening encounters that shall test courage and skill, with darkness creeping. In such dim hours, the sound of snorts and rustling in the underbrush keeps your senses on high alert, a fitting reminder of those times when listening was a skill of survival. Every gulp of earthy air speaks tales of prosperity, aligned with prowess. Overcoming the boar yielded more than sustenance. It signified triumph. As night fully unfurls its blanket, enigmas layered within the undergrowth wrap tightly around your thoughts. Humor whispers the trope of knightly heroic heroes wrestling beasts to prove mettle, only to retreat unceremoniously, topsy-turvy through the bracken. At this point, you consider paths back to relative safety. The medieval woodland's dual nature, blending marvel with menace, often finds you taming its stark challenges by encounter or empathy. It's a realm where heartbeats resonate through stories and myths, echoing within the heart of nature's unyielding wildness. Acknowledging this, you leave the trace of your imagination like footprints beside untamed trails, mindful of the legacy that courses through the symmetry of hunt and heraldry. The wild boar, whether real or imagined, casts a long shadow you explore with both awe and amusement as you draw your day to its woodland end. As you journey further into the medieval woodland, the familiar winding path becomes less distinct, swallowed by the earth's textured blanket of fallen leaves and undergrowth. Here, within this tangled mass of nature, your guide is the symphony of the forest itself, a chorus of chirping, rustling, and the whispers of the wind threading through branches. Navigating without marked trails requires a different set of senses and an awareness that transcends the visual, embracing the audible and tactile instead. Picture yourself pausing in the middle of this forest concert, the ground a patchwork of shadows and light. The air carries a melange of fragrant pine and the crisp scent of crushed leaves beneath your boots. You become acutely aware that, unlike the detailed maps of today's world, medieval explorers often relied upon these nuanced signs to forge their routes through the dense labyrinth. Historians still argue whether these forest wanderers used natural markers like unusually shaped trees or persistent moss patches as reliable waypoints. Listening becomes an art form as animal calls punctuate the air with their rhythm, each note a signpost to understanding. The creatures of the underbrush serve inadvertently as guides. The loud chatter of squirrels might suggest you're close to their food stores, while the sudden hush of birdsong might speak of a predator nearby. Each call, each rustle, amplifies the map etched across nature's surface. Imagine the kinds of tales woven across campfires, humorous anecdotes, likely featuring explorers going in circles, or mistaking the messenger call of a cuckoo for an eerily human voice. Yes, even in medieval times, the forest had its share of unfortunate wanderers, and the woodlands bore more comedic legend than ennobled elegy. But amidst the jest, the forest remains an unyielding tutor. The rhythmic drumming of a woodpecker, echoing through tree trunks, might signal termite activity and, subsequently, venerable oaks or elms nearby a boon for a woodsman in search of resource-laden groves. You glean these auditory breadcrumbs as you move deeper, acknowledging the unspoken dialogue between man and the natural realm. Your fingers brush against the rough bark, feeling patterns etched both by nature and time parchments of speech carved across the woodland's tapestry. Indeed, many medieval travelers believed trees to hold spirits, their whispers shaping the land's stories, guiding or cautioning those who dared to listen. Within this backdrop, tales of sylvan guardians weave through the air, stories perhaps born of long stretches of trepidation, inducing quiet. But even as dusk approaches, humor finds its way into these scenarios. Perhaps you chuckle at the image of an industrious, albeit misinformed villager, mistaking petrichor for ghostly essence, retreating swiftly with fervent apologies to the tree's imagined spirits. Here, amidst the blend of myth and reality, survival often required a touch of whimsy. As the forest thickens, the sky filters into silvery fingers of light. You attempt to reorient, embedding mental pins into the pathways, each decision informed by sensory input textures, unmarred by the madness of maps mislaid. In essence, navigation becomes adaptation, a process not encoded on paper but lived, breathed. The medieval traverser develops an instinct that anchors footing upon forested trails where civilization falters, highlighting a poignant difference over time, that between being lost and simply wandering. As the sky deepens to a sultry indigo, stars peeking through, these ancient woods morph subtly familiar echoes, offer comfort while concealing mysteries beyond modern haste. Here, getting lost was not necessarily a downside. It provided an opportunity to truly connect, not just with one's surroundings, but with oneself. The wisdom of not needing to know exactly where you're headed, savoring an inward journey. Steering through these silent expanses, you borrow knowledge accrued over history, blend of laughter and lessons gathered under the moonlit canopy. Thus, as night envelops the forest, you find that amid its grand complexity, simplicity reigns supreme. Whispers of the forest, your gentle companions, guiding beyond paths known or charted. And so, the journey continues. Another lesson etched into the story of survival, within a forest that stretches infinity into the imagination, where direction finds its alignment with earthbound anchors and skybound dreams. In the mellow embrace of the medieval woodland, where light and shadow play their eternal game, you begin to notice not just the flora and fauna, but the very structure of the forest that envelops you, a living gallery of natural resources. As you traverse deeper, you come to appreciate how trees aren't merely silent spectators, but an exhibition of endless utility, essential to medieval life. Pause and run your fingers over the rough, sturdy bark of an oak tree that holds stories in its deep concentric rings, stories of seasons gone by, each narrating prosperity or hardship. Picture a medieval craftsman eyeing this leviathan with what might almost seem like artistry, the kind that sees beyond the ordinary tree into its functional future. Oaks were valued not just for their majestic presence, but primarily for their robust wood, integral to tools, structures, and even the colossal beams of grand halls that featured in tales told by Firelight. As you tread further, the dappled sunlight dances over blossoming hazel trees, their flexible branches whispering the promise of woven baskets or twisted into tools indispensable to survival. Imagine our medieval craftsmen, adroit hands familiar with the pliability of hazel and willow, turning raw materials into everyday necessities, a strainer for milk, fences spanning the perimeters of the simplest homesteads. An aspect of humor might tickle your thoughts, as you envision someone in the throes of fashioning these with the same ferocious concentration that modern folks reserve for troubleshooting their Wi-Fi. While navigating this woodland, you'll encounter birch's noble guardians with their unmistakable pale bark, visually striking within this sea of green. This was no mere accident of nature, but a signal to those who sought the durable bark for roofing, the waterproof qualities legendary, yet pragmatic, heralded across regions where rain was less a season, more a relentless companion. Historians still argue whether the innovation in using birch and its bark fuel for moonshine marked a clever resourcefulness or simply a byproduct of stoic endurance. From ash to yew, each tree represents a facet of medieval life, especially tipping its narrative swayed by stories both feared and revered. Its wood crafting fine longbows, as much as it bore the infamy of containing poisonous compounds. Such stories taste of the duality keenly felt by medieval woodland dwellers, where usefulness was often shadowed by caution. Yet for all the raw potential and peril these trees embodied, the woodland bespoke art and community, a reminder that for our medieval craftsmen, the forest was akin to a hardware store. Yet, under its canopied aisles, one didn't meander, but collaborated with nature to shape civilization. This collaboration finds itself echoed in bustling coppices, where selective cutting and careful management ensure that materials received a fertile future. Imagine the ingenuity involved, knowing when to fell what, perceiving the promise of a sapling's growth alongside its kin, in thoughtful anticipation of tomorrow's tools and homes. It is likely that within these industrious enclaves, lives entangled with timber, engaged in work song, bringing the rhythm of swinging axes and saws, harmonizing alongside the woodland's own chorus. As evening draws closer, the golden hour unveils the true artistry captured by our craftsmen, a testament of nuanced skill, melded with respect and need, communion mirrored in the objects woven, carved, and constructed. Each object told not just of necessity, but of a deeper understanding of materials and spirit, echoing myth and creation. Through this lens, humor again dashes by an image of a medieval artisan trying to explain the superiority of his hand-carved spoon over hastily made ones, ready for purchase at a modern superstore, where wood comes less from trees and more from spreadsheets. Such observations lend to a perspective rare but nurturing, not simply for the mind but for the soul. As you wend your way back through this forest cathedral, the artistry encased in this silent symposium resonates. You sense how deeply the woodland shaped lives and livelihoods, whispering its stories through timber and tendril. The medieval artisan's canvas sprawled beneath your feet and overhead. Indeed, this was a place where necessity wasn't devoid of creation, where creation wasn't devoid of nature, a balanced expression of life, intertwined as artist and observer. Amidst these shadows, stretching long in the deepening dusk, stand still and savor the quiet celebration of knowing something both ancient and profound, that through the ages, the steadfast artistry of the medieval craftsman, his eye for usefulness, amidst this verdant labyrinth, crafted a narrative as enduring as the trees themselves. As night unfurls its tapestry over the medieval woodland, a cloak of mystery descends with it. In these shadowed depths, the blend of reality and folklore emerges vividly, a haze where the tangible interacts with the mythic. Every rustling leaf or distant cry morphs into tales whispered among villagers gathered by their hearths, a place where imagination lights the gloom like a flickering candle. Wander deeper into the age-old forest, where every corner might harbor a legend passed down through generations. Here, the boundaries between what is and what could be blur effortlessly, casting tales rooted in people's desires to comprehend the unknowable. The air feels heavier now, imbued with the scent of pine mingled with the whispers of ancient storystories that tied people to places both physical and fantastical. You find yourself wondering at the tales told of these woods' dark narratives of spirits guarding their arboreal domains, or of wayward souls endlessly wandering. These beliefs were much more than entertainment. They were woven into the very fabric of medieval life, explanations offered for nature without science, musings that lent coherence to a wildly unpredictable existence. Historians still argue whether these tales of woodland spirits were born from fear of the unknown or reverence for the seen and unseen. The forest folklore became both warning and comfort, often reflecting humanity's eternal dance with the shadow. Imagine yourself standing before a gnarled oak, its twisted form a frequent character in such tales. Perhaps villagers whispered of ancient druids who might still roam thin paths between realms with these trees as their sentinels. Such impressions would wrap themselves in layers of narrative, the roots curling more into mysticism than soil, interlinking with reminders of deities and forces whose benevolence or ire could sway one's fortune. Picture then the nightly dance of light will-o'-the, wisps flickering ghostly tones through marshy grounds, leading travellers astray or lighting their path. Humour finds its way into this tale, envisioning the puzzled looks exchanged between aimless wanderers as they grapple with inexplicable illuminations. Today, we may chuckle at the notion of spectral flames as mere swamp gas or trick of the light, yet centuries past, trust in one's senses swayed perception into narrative. Such stories of the supernatural weren't isolated to benign spirits. The foreboding silhouettes of wolves at dusk, for instance, fed into legends of shapeshiftersmen who turned under moonlight into beastly forms, outdoing any modern superhero transformation. While you'd prefer to imagine their howls simply adding ambience to a night's repose, reality bites harder when accompanied by sharper truth wolves were formidable members of this ecosystem, one to tread around wisely. Nothing held enchantment and fear closer than those enshrined in tales of fairies and demons, ancient and capricious. Here, folklore resonates brightly, from titillating visions of forest-bound meetings with glittering sprites to shadowy entrapments in realms woven from living roots. Enchanted forest glades still remain thresholds within these narratives, a patch where mortal and magical threads entwine, where the whims of belief catch and linger. Soothsayings and portents were often summoned from dreams woven here. The meditative night might cast shadows both innocent and ominous, reflecting the dance of fantasy and reality. Humour might translate this into visions of medieval storytellers, fabricating wild tales to entertain, only for those same stories to be pulled gingerly over onlookers' heads, like a child's blanket, comforting yet quivering. The forest sings an inevitable night song that tickles at the heart of superstitious beginnings and ends, closing the loop on human curiosity's insatiable thirst for wonder. And whether reliving these tales by the crackling fireside or left weary from travel, they wove tapestries onto which hopes, fears, and dreams were embroidered in vivid tones. As night deepens, and the whispering woods cradle you softly on this journey, remember how alive they stand, not just above earth or sea, but within the minds and hearts of all those who dared traverse their boundless, invisible lines. Here, amid unseen movements and soft gasps of foliage breathing, reigns a timeless tableauone where every step invites an encounter with lingering ideals, both mundane and marvelous. Through twilight and dreamscape, the woodland remains enchanted. Stars perch like watching eyes above, within a sky vault arching over tales timelessly spun. Dare to wander here, even as sleep draws closer, into spaces aglow with mystery, cradled across connections that bind simpler yesterdays with our questing tomorrows. As the stars take their positions in the night sky, the calm of the woodland is suddenly juxtaposed by the ever-capricious force of nature, the whims of weather. Even though this medieval forest seems serene under its celestial quilt, don't be fooled. The elements can change with the fickleness of a minstrel's tale. Navigating these sudden changes marks yet another formidable chapter in the saga of survival. Imagine the sky heavy with clouds, a brooding mass advancing like a formidable army across the horizon. The scent of petrichor quietly underlines the promise of rain, mingling with the scent of earth and leaves. You find yourself wrapped against the unpredictable temperament of weather decades ago, where technology had yet to offer its reassuring forecast, and where intuition and observation were your only guides. Stepping lightly as thunder rumbles in the distance, you appreciate how your medieval predecessors discerned weather through signs nature readily offers. The shape and color of clouds' grey underbelly, or tumbling nimbus castles, were potent harbingers then. The cry of a certain bird or the sudden hush of forest creatures might hint at incoming storms. It's like nature's radio, broadcasting updates through whispers and glances. Imagine the foreboding theatre of sky and sound hushed into your consciousness while every fibre strains to read these elements. How many tunes might medieval poets have composed, swaying with nature's elemental orchestra as it stirred dramatic overtures in both reality and imagination? Historians still argue whether weather predictions in medieval times were artful hunches or rooted in keen observation. Nonetheless, many relied on earthly omens as they wrestled with seasonal challenges. Sudden rain sweeps through these woods, a transient waterfall cascading from sky to soil. The flash of lightning momentarily changes the forest's visage into strange shadows, brief yet grand. You too might marvel at today's modern conveniences, safe and dry behind silicone screens, while stretching imaginative wings into the past where rain was less a spectacle and more an authoritative presence one had to accommodate. Think about those medieval feet, clad in leathers or simple woven fabrics, trudging through muck and mire when journeys could not be paused. It's a classic mudslinging tangle that could make your modern rain-frosted heart ache. Forest tracks turned swampy trails stood as impromptu tests, congealed by trodden leaves and clay, daring even the hardiest of souls. Not all was woe, though. The rain, despite causing soggy tribulations, frequently spelled good fortune. The woodland's symbiotic cycle meant rains baptized the green cathedral, fortifying birthing buds and nourishing stealthy streams. The showers were akin to a refreshing pint to the forest, although drinking from a medieval mug on a rainy eve sounds as much of a treat as glugging ale cobbled from honey heat. Yes, it's funny to imagine medieval folks inventing the forerunner of outdoor picnics, huddled under trees eating soggy bread, making toasts only they understood to thunderous applause. Yet, not all ominous weather beckoned despair. Those who valued the forests knew how to wield nature's caprices to advantage. The strategy unfurled in a dance of positioning herding sheep or deer during showers was a grower's gainand utilizing moisture-receiving mosses for daily requirements. Meanwhile, wandering travelers might find refuge under stoic trees, engaging in stories aloud to shield from the echoes of rainfall's staccato rhythm. With these experiential arts no mere abstraction, the woodland itself becomes an ally and antagonist, depending on when and how you find yourself encountering its expansive reach under the yoke of weather. Humor often underscored the interplay between expectation and outcome, like a medieval improvisation comedy show where no two moonlit storms behaved likewise. Once the clouds recede, the aftermath is not merely quiet, it's a renewal. The chill after rainfall, a brisk reminder of nature's indifferent majesty, lingers in the air, heavy with the promise of tomorrow. You, now a tentative wanderer at this narrative's threshold, must recognize the medieval lesson. Adaptation. Between rain-soaked leaves and puddle-forged hollowed paths, emerge lessons casting vision across time where humanity patiently endured with humor, ingenuity, and fortitude. So close your eyes, and settle now beside the embers of invisible fires burnt long ago where even raindrops orchestrated forgotten symphonies, drawing humankind ever closer to the extraordinary cadence of lives bound with nature's exuberant mood. In this history-soaked sojourn, as clouds roll away revealing glistening boughs, remember, medieval persistence, threaded sunlight through storms and stories alike, merging man, myth, and meteorology into rich chronicles of the human heart. Amidst the renewed clarity of the woodland after the rainfall, the forest awakens to a heightened symphony. The chorus of life lifts once more, and you find yourself absorbed in the intertwining melodies of birds and insects, a vast, living opus that defines the medieval woodland soundscape. These sounds, lively yet calming, form the backdrop of daily life in the forest, each note signaling various facets of survival and the intricate web of forest ecology. Morning breaks again as the first light filters through wet leaves, reflecting sparkling droplets like thousands of woodland diamonds. You pause and listen. Robin's warble pierces the air, a clarion call underscored by the cheeps of smaller birds and the distant rhythmic tap of a woodpecker. Each sound forms a part of the forest's complex communication network, serving medieval inhabitants much like the notifications on your phone today. Whether signaling danger, food, or fellowship, these auditory cues demand your attention as much as they do action. Consider how the forest itself becomes a living map through sound. These calls signal proximity to water, or the quiet coves where animals congregate, sometimes even the trails less tangled and dense. Such wisdom would have been an unsung mastery guiding medieval folk with instinct sharpened by necessity. Historians still argue whether certain bird calls were deliberately mimicked by those navigating the wilderness, or if this graced version of charades was simply incidental. As you continue, the buzz of insects rises in a chorus of high pitches, akin to a celestial background hum. To those unaccustomed, it might seem clamorously chaotic, but within the medieval woodsman's ear, these insects sing stories. Their clamor is both an indication of approaching warmth and a telltale of locations less likely to harbor predators. In essence, medieval folk regarded these tiny minstrels in the same way they'd esteem a village heralder mixture of amusement and attentiveness. You might chuckle at the thought equating this natural cacophony to a medieval streaming service, with genres unrolling right above you, free for those willing to tune in. There's a gentle humor in imagining village elders claiming age-old familiarity with these songs, perhaps leading children to understand meanings by orchestrating them into makeshift concerts of narration. The birds and insects continue, unabated a plucky symphony, merging with the rustle of leaves, like winding rivers that draw connection from podcast-like observation into appreciation. For medieval inhabitants, these sounds cued the body's inner compass and heart together. Each bodily sensation hunger, curiosity, cautiousness, heightened by the way life sings through the woods. Insects drone lazily around blossoms, while bees conduct buzzing sorties among the dappled sunlit patches, industriously transferring pollen from bloom to bloomer, part of the cycle intertwining the wearer and the worn, creator and canvas within nature's perpetually moving loom. Imagine you're out foraging, enticed by what you'll find among the brambles and branches. Here, the twittering of birds might steer you away from danger, while the consistent buzzing might direct you toward troves of fresh fruit. Medieval folk had to decipher these musical notes, transforming them into tangible actions in silent conversation with nature. As day drifts toward noon, the woodland sings ever more light filtering through leaves, with a glow that subtly changes note each hour. This is your afternoon orchestra, creating invisible roots linking each creature's gesture, enveloping melody and presence into a natural ballad that resonated through medieval lives. With wings mimicking the hum of history, dragonflies dash on air-filled pirouettes like performers, staging impromptu shows above marshland, lily pads sentencing you to reminisce about ancient tales of transformations and spirit guardians cloaked in scales, wings, or mist. It's upon encountering such vibrant, albeit ephemeral performers that the enchantment of life intertwined with song rings as sound truth. Whenever you look closely enough within this audio-visual mosaic, past and present fuse, a masterpiece written in tiny notes and broader chords, immortalized through narratives lived there. Take a moment to savor how this melodic tapestry connects all histories that traverses steps, the bird's flight, the insect's dance, the rustling tapestry of leaf and limb. Let the symphony rest in your ears, just as it did in those long evenings past, where ancient rhythms curled in conversations around hearth fires. Inwardly, you whisper gratitude stone-soaked in echoes, persisting as symphonic dreamscrafting, yet another medieval odyssey, reflecting life as harmony, embracing the spirited whispers of arboreal muses, whose notes still whisper across the quiet boundaries of night's arrival. As you journey deeper into the heart of the forest, the cacophony of morning fades into a softer hum. Now, you embark on the crucial task of gathering a process, both intricate and fraught with the potential for mistakes. This task, often overseen by the watchful eyes of seasoned gatherers, is akin to a finely practiced art form, where every decision could mean sustenance or misfortune. You imagine yourself slipping quietly beneath the boughs, where the forest floor is a mosaic of color and texture. The air is rich with the musky scent of earth and the delicate sweetness of ripe fruit. Your senses sharpen, every sound is magnified, each rustle of leaves a potential hint towards hidden treasures. The medieval gatherer would have relied on a profound understanding of the flora, honed through years of trial and error. Historians still debate whether folk tradition, or sheer necessity, served as the more potent guide for these gatherers, as they navigated the dense undergrowth. Before you, a glimmer of blue tiny berries nestled amidst the foliage. You recall how certain berries offer life-sustaining properties, while others hold the dark promise of poison. Plucking them requires knowledge etched into memory, the same kind you'd have reciting family recipes by heart. Nature's larder is generous but requires vigilance, a sense of humor ever present when repeated warnings of elder generations rise like an inner echo. One look, 2 bites, a third to regret. Continue further into this hidden bounty, brushing aside leaves with fingers attuned to touch, a skill cast alight in wood-carved tables comparing leaf shapes within obsidian pots. Mushrooms, meteors of fungi, tempt with an allure whose danger is whispered across the ages. Some of these artful fungi hold hearty meals within their spongy folds, while others spin dreams or dire struggle, forging themselves into legend through both truth and terror. Consider how the gatherer's path wove through medieval tapestry, each decision driven by Earth's subtle song-specific herbs known to calm or inflame, particular roots summoning strength or sleep among the endless forest offerings. These gatherings thread along the background of human endeavor, where the community was forefront, an arboreal partnership of responsibility and reward. You picture the gatherers themselves, a community carefully scrutinizing their finds under dappled light, transforming raw materials into sustenance. Sometimes they might stumble upon tracks toward a hidden grove, rich with a particular plant associated with healing or magic throughout. These silent forays were unsung battles against deprivation, where strategy and wisdom nurtured survival. In the delicate afternoon sun, imagine crouching by a brook, swirling water, painting a rhythmic contrast to your task of separating edible from unfit, useful from the useless. Here, collecting watercress or purslane requires eyes attuned to the telltale margins between abundance and assumption. You appreciate how every chosen thing must weave into the broader pattern within communities relying heavily on gatherer harvests. Amusingly, think how the tradition of someone pointing out the wrong berry and creating uproarious legends intentionally or otherwise sparked jests, immortalized amid forested glens. Imagine communal tales passing lips like rakishly whispered asides, eventually finding home beside hearth fires, entertainment served with hints of softened, measured truth. As shadows lengthen, the fruits and fungiforms weigh softly in woven bags, their wooden loops resting upon shoulders bearing the mantle of those before you past generations, whose expectation leaned heavily upon forest learnings. Returning home through winding paths, with the accumulating silhouetted trimmings of progress around you, reflects not just the survival of the fittest plants chosen, but endurance through knowledge upheld proudly against time's encroachments. Ending a day richly infused with the fruits of your gathering, appreciate how these paths fostered certainty, not merely about collecting nature, but mingling laughter and learning where life and earth intertwined beneath the canopy of trees. The forest whispers as you leave, its ancient, unending tales wrapped in winds, born from every generation's journeyer, story never lead-footed, but woven in the quiet gathering of voices, vast as any woodland expanse. Thus, you slip back toward the edges, unwinding paths that today met with nature's presence carrying truths from yesteryear's echoes in your own whispered shade. The afternoon sun dips lower in the sky, and you're reminded that as much as this forest is a provider of food and medicine, it also offers shelter necessity as vital as any in the medieval wilderness. Building a temporary abode in this dense, living world is a craft unto itself, one that transforms ordinary woods into sanctuary, where every branch and leaf is employed to protect against the chill of night. Imagine yourself pausing at a clearing, surrounded by towering trees, their branches extended like inviting arms. The choice of location is everything. Too close to a waterway could mean dampness and unwanted visitors in the night. But then, your medieval instincts guide you, seeking ground that offers both elevation and a natural canopy. It's an art to read the forest so fluently, to see hidden homes in open spaces, whispers of dwellings within the embrace of boughs. You gather materials, stepping softly over the untamed hummocks and root-clad earth. You're reminded of how those in the medieval era turned to the forest for all their construction needs, ingenious architects of the humble leaf and branch. Imagine the groundwork. Thick layers of foliage underfoot, designed both to insulate from cold seeping earth and to supply a cushion against the night. Branches are chosen for flexibility and strength, weaved into a framework that melds seamlessly with the forest, a skeletal structure covered by a thatched roof fashioned from leaves and grass. Each task draws you closer to the whispered skills, older than any written instruction. You test the bend and give of saplings to form arches, mimicking the ribbed ceilings of cathedral naves in a paradox of sophistication and simplicity. Historians still argue whether the medieval builder's skill was inherited through family lines or taught through communal mentorships, passed down like sacred tradition. There's a humor in the bumbling attempts following this craft modern minds, picturing themselves attempting such tasks with diagrams or tutorials, but finding nature is the true tutor amidst bent twigs and leafy placards. The process of crafting each element speaks to both frustration and triumph, yielding under the rhythm imposed by the forest's own whispered music. Step back now. Examine your creation against the settling twilight, an amalgam of nature's offering and human ingenuity, a structure there to repel wind and rain, to embrace the tread of tired explorers seeking rest. The medieval shelters blended within nature, becoming extensions of its breath rather than interferences, part hideaway, part declaration. Picture yourself laying inside, beneath your leafy canopy, as day fades into night. Even then, within the seemingly cramped circle of your makeshift haven, there's an expansiveness that only nature can grant, a sense of being both small and yet intimately connected to the universe's vast theatre. Safety found not in mass or heft, but in creative adaptation, guiding along insight honed between necessity and the innate drive to endure. Your thoughts drift to the tales of those who once crafted such abodes before you. How many might have nestled into these shelters alongside elders trading stories, each tale an echo, part tangible history, part whispered myth. Here, completely enveloped by the shadows of branches, humor becomes a companion, a jest about modern-day glamping, as you listen for hints of roving animals or imagined nights on grand adventures in questing dreams. Cocooned here, recognize that these shelters served as both physical and psychological refuge spaces where the transient never overtook the timeless, where even ephemeral abodes harmonized life's pursuit across the ages. Within these frames of patience and boughs, life's trials were kept momentarily at bay, held in tributary pause. As the night deepens, stars prick the sky with pinpoints of silver, glimpsed through your leafy aperture, each a reminder of dreams held within shelters lost to daily memory, but found again through slumber's gentle coaxing. You relax into the rhythmic cadence of the woodland's heartbeat, where every rustle through leaves harmonizes with your own breath and thought. Through these abiding constructions, you find kinship not only with nature, but also with those who came before. So, rest now, under your leafy cathedral, where dreams align alongside leaf and twig, nestled in nature's bosom until daybreak's promise whispers anew. In the shadowscape of your imagination, listen to the hush-filling silence, species a tribute to the medieval sculptor of sanctuary, creating a shelter born of vision, crafted by wind and will. As morning light brightens the woodland canopy, illuminating dewdrops that glisten like fairy lights on leaves, your mind turns to the quest for water, a substance as critical to survival as it is elusive in the medieval forest. In a landscape where streams hide beneath dense undergrowth and stagnant pools can masquerade as safe havens, finding potable water is both an art and a necessity. Imagine the cautious steps of a medieval wanderer searching for water, ears keenly attuned to the trickling of a hidden brook under the whisper of leaves. The air is fresh, crisp, carrying the scent of moist earth and vibrant greenery, a stark contrast to the parched throat that calls for hydration. Navigating through this arboreal labyrinth, you scan for the telltale signs of water, cooler breeze perhaps, or the glistening path where sunlight dances off the water's surface. In this pursuit, intuition and observation become finely honed tools. Dry mouths can play tricks, and not every glimmering pond offers salvation. Historians still argue whether medieval travelers used specific divining techniques passed down through generations or relied purely on the sensory experience honed over time. You come upon a stream, its surface bubbling briskly over pebbles, offering the promise of relief. Here, though, you must tread thoughtfully, for looks can deceive. The knowledge of where animals trail to drink, the way certain plants thrive in proximity to clean water, becomes crucial in this larger strategy of survival. Gatherers might have told tales of streams that led people to safety, weaving these narratives into the tapestry of human connection to water. It's impossible to ignore the stark contrast to modern conveniences, where a twist of a tap delivers the life-giving liquid without thought. In medieval times, securing clean water meant differentiating between a stream's clear promise and the stagnation of a potentially tainted pool. Perhaps humor enters gently here, envisioning a medieval counterpart, deciding whether to trust their instincts or consult a shaman equipped with questionable methods. Once you find suitable water, comes the task of purification, if the water is not swiftly flowing. Tactics might involve boiling the liquid over a fire, as the comfort of a boiling cauldron guaranteed better odds against unseen threats, though fire itself needed crafting from nature's offerings. Or consider the tools available. Filters constructed from sand and charcoal, rudimentary yet ingenious practices employing the forest's own resources. Imagine those who survived within these woods, having mastered the subtle art of hydrology with only the senses, crafting clever solutions from necessity. A small band of gatherers might share stories around a campfire, embellishing tales about magical springs with healing powers or streams guarded by spirits, a touch of whimsy intertwined with genuine gratitude for every droplet. As you drink, simple relief swells into appreciation, your mind acknowledging the symphony of life the forest sings, turning every babbling brook into a lifeline binding past and present. In these moments, you join a lineage stretching back through centuries of forest inhabitants. And here, if humor takes its turn once more, it might dwell on modern anxieties where purist choices over bottled or sparkling water fade in favor of a universal truth, that all life is inexorably tied to these crystalline threads weaving across the earth, offering sustenance for body and spirit. With thirst quenched and gratitude renewed, you turn from the stream, leaves whispering in the crisp air. The pursuit of water has bound you more tightly than any other necessity to the forest's intricate ecosystem, where each decision is steeped in history and the reassuring presence of an ancient world. As the path takes you forward, remember this connection to water, the life's liquid joy, imparting clarity beyond quenching mere thirst. We've tread paths where water once paralleled tales of divine quests for holy grails, quest that ends not in gilded chalices, but in simple shared moments beside shimmering streams. This is the art and truth found only in the embrace of the medieval woodland, a place where wisdom flows as surely as any river, forever whispering through the branches and back into the heart of humanity. As the woodland awakens with the chorus of morning, you feel the tangible weight of necessity beckoning you toward a different pursuit, the art of archery, a skill so vital to medieval survival that it defined not only hunters, but warriors as well. In these thickets, where danger hides behind beauty and shadows, your prowess with a bow becomes a rite of passage, a dance between precision and power. Envision yourself in the shoes of a medieval archer, feeling the flex of the yew wood under your fingertips, the taut string humming with potential energy as you draw it back. There's something innately satisfying about the bow, a simple yet exquisite instrument that connects you with this primeval world. The fabric of your attire, heavy and worn, anchors you as the morning air, crisp and laced with pine, fills your lungs. Archery in medieval times was more than just a tool for hunting. It was widely revered as a martial discipline, even as a pastime among the nobility. Historians still argue whether mastery of the bow stemmed more from the innate talents of the individual or the rigorous drills imposed by necessity and survival. Regardless of its roots, archery required an understanding of natural laws and personal introspection. Training with a bow demanded a communion with your surroundings. The boughs of trees whispering instruction on wind direction, the rustling underbrush alerting you to unseen targets. When you tense the string and draw the arrow to your cheek, the forest becomes a part of you, with its sights set on a singular purpose. The release is a whisper, a note in the woodland symphony, and in that moment you are both predator and protector, hunter and guardian. Imagine the discipline medieval archers instilled in their youth, when they too stood among the trees, following the wish-plunk of arrows against makeshift targets. They grew to respect both the bow's demands and its generosity, the skill, crossing the bounds of necessity into sport, honing reflexes and sharpening their senses. Humor plays a sly hand in imagining those trials of misspent arrows, a novice's mistake resulting in an arrow quivering comically in a tree, far wide of the mark. Even modern sensibilities might stumble with attention divided between GPS and perplexingly funny tech issues as theirs once did, among deciduous cathedrals with far less at stake than dinner plans. For many, archery intertwined with the hunt in ways industrious and artistic. Success meant venison for the family, while a missed shot echoed further than the arrow could travel, casting ripples into one's community. The same bow of the hunter was employed against external threats during conflictors, crucial in peace as in defense. Such proficiency also forged status and security. The thriving practice of competitive archery, along with tournaments, illustrated societal standing and aspect, reflected in annals rich with vibrant tales of contests and wagers. While the forest unfolds its splendor, you imagine these tales laced with laughter, a jest toward egos, bruised or hearts stirred anew by meet or match, competitors weaving grand narratives around campfires long extinguished. In this light, the bow symbolizes more than the sum of its wood, string, and feathered tips. It is the bridge between survival's simplicity and civilization's grander passions. You trace fingertips along the bow's arc, envisioning its blend of tension and grace mirroring the forest canopy above. As you move through the trees, practice morphs into rhythm, anticipation smoothing into instinct. The forest offers no judgment, only the ever-present opportunity to hone your skills alongside its enduring lessons. Here, the bow speaks as an emissary of focus, commitment, and courage, a timeless symbol, drawn taut across ages. Remember the bonds this tool forged between archer, environment, and community. These woods bore witness to livelihoods sustained and tales spun from momentary choices between heartbeat and release. Whether in solitude or communal cheer, archery's ancient rite oiled the wheels of connection traversed along paths throughout history's echoing corridors. As afternoon sun casts long shadows across the forest floor, every tree a silent sentinel observing the past and present mingle, the bow returns to rest. With your gathered insights, ranging from nature's backdrop to glimmering competition, the journey with archery possesses you equally as you possess Bridge binding realms unlike others. In leaving this whispered woodland archery range, allow the teachings to hum quietly within memory, which guide you toward tomorrow wrapped in forest's embrace. Bow once more to forces of nature, to discipline long learned, a graceful act of will, amid fleeting minutes that expand outward through time's continuum and all its archaic beauty. As the sun dips toward the horizon, casting long shadows over the forest floor, you become acutely aware of other, less natural dangers lurking within the woods. In medieval times, the forest wasn't just a realm of untamed nature, it was also a refuge for those who preferred to live beyond the reach of law and society. Bandits and outlaws often roamed these wooded expanses, weaving danger into the fabric of daily life. Picture the tense stillness of a woodland path blanketed in dappled sunlight that seems suddenly more sinister as you remember the stories of highwaymen and brigands. The medieval forest echoed with tales of stolen goods and whispered warnings of roving gangs, each bandit an element in a human ecosystem as unpredictable as the wild beasts it shared the woods with. There's a rustle in the brush to your left, the soft crack of a twig underfoot, and your senses are heightened, every sound fraught with potential threat. Medieval outlaws weren't necessarily the moustache-twirling villains of today's tales. Often, poverty and desperation pushed them to such extremes. Whether former soldiers left to fend for themselves or peasants evicted from their lands, they found a harsh kind of freedom under the forest's canopy. Historians still argue whether these bandit groups were merely opportunistic predators or social renegades acting out of desperation. Regardless of motivation, their presence lent an air of uncertainty to travel, a reminder that danger was as much human as natural. In the dim light filtering through the trees, you imagine the debate among travelers contemplating the forest road, whether to brave the winding path that promises both speed and peril, or take the safer, longer route that skirts danger. Indeed, the woodland stories about Robin Hood, the infamous outlaw with a purported sense of justice, find their origin in such narratives themes, mingling rebellion against injustice with acts of roguish gallantry. The humor in imagining bumbling bandits mistaken for wood sprites at dusk plays hide-and-seek with the mind, contrasting sterner truths about the consequences of crossing paths with these enigmatic forest dwellers. One could almost picture travelers, their company intent on delivering goods, mistaking shadow for phantom, in an adrenaline-laced flare that softened into chuckles when dawn's light revealed naught but wayward branches. Picture the fireside conversations of villagers recounting encounters with forest bandits, each succeeding tale grander than the last, voices lowered conspiratorially when weaving webs of the secrets hidden in glades, or the bandits mocked royalty deep in their sylvan retreats. For those living nearer to these untamed realms, the outlaws might have become background noise, part of the day-to-day, an unpredictable weather that could shift at any moment. The villagers, remaining alert to find workable compromises, might offer goods in exchange for safety, a tithe given over in the hope of both appeasement and survival. At the heart, the forest serves as both the canvas and the curtain for these hidden transactions, holding it all in silent testament. The leaves whispering secrets and winds rustling with tales unsung beyond willow-watched trails. So, as you tread through this medieval maze of timber and thicket, consider the dialogue between civilization's edges. Neither fully rural nor wholly barbaric, the forest is nuanced a backdrop that mirrors, through foraging branches, the human struggle and complexity, echoing the broader pursuit of safety and freedom. As evening descends in earnest, the light fades, and the night creatures murmur from their tucked-away places. The path home beckons, where stories have wound themselves into fireside tales and laughter emerges anew from joking faces, where courage is celebrated and time closes around you a little tighter. In observing both forest and humanity, bound together in shadows there, rests an acknowledgement of the medieval necessity to navigate not only the animate forms, but the fierce dreams that wander beneath starlit canopies. So bid a silent farewell to the bandits' invisible gates. Walk lightly between trees, whose wisdom holds both love and fear. Carry your thoughts beyond this green shroud, where every tale whispers promises of peril and potential in the age-old narrative. Of travelers crossing borders seen and unseen, within the forest's spell. Nak. Binding source hamekume. Binding source. Binding source. Sure binding source. Bindings. Binding. Binding. Permutation. 9. Life. Life. Through binding source. Binding source. As you move deeper into the evening's embrace, the medieval woodland takes on an aura of expectancy. The sun has dipped entirely below the horizon, leaving behind a trail of twilight that barely illuminates your path. Now comes the time to establish camp. To bring warmth and light to the encroaching darkness, a task that entwines both ancient instinct and cautious craft. Picture the crackle and hiss of damp wood beginning to catch flame, the sparks glinting like fireflies in the descending gloom. With each snap as the fire awakens, you feel the pull of primordial ties, the connection to not just survival but community across the canvas of history. Here, in this secluded pocket of the forest, you claim your space with the creation of fire. The air, once chilled by the night, grows warmer and begins to dance with the soothing aroma of burning pine and oak. Creating a fire in medieval times, especially in the depths of these formidable woods, involved more than just striking flint to steel. It was a skill taught through generations, sir. Delicate dance of gathering the driest wood from fallen branches, crafting a nest of kindling and whispering life into the tiny flames until they grew strong enough to chase away the night. Humor might arise from the image of medieval fumblers, clumsy in their attempts, achieving success only to meet with sudden rain. Within your camp's perimeter, the fire flickers as both beacon and barrier. It wards off the creatures of the night and provides the hearth around which stories are recounted and travelers find solace. Its light casts long shadows in the glacier, reminder of how much the forest floor is revered as much as it is feared. Edging closer, you take refuge in its warmth, imagining the gatherings long past where fireside tales knitted comradeship and strengthened resolve. Historians still argue whether these fireside traditions impacted societal bonds more through shared necessity or through the leisurely pursuit of storytelling. The narratives that unfold adventures of wood elves or tales spun with the mischievous antics of forest sprites reflect the shared human experience found in these flickering circles. Besides the comfort it bestows, fire serves pragmatic needs. Over its dancing flames, you consider your evening meal. You roast a simple catch, remembering that for medieval campfire cookery, the edge of a burning stick offered the promise of flavor unknown to us amidst today's conveniences. The taste of food, crisped on open flame in the crisp night air, draws you close to the ancestral heart of gatherings past. With sustenance secured and warmth enveloping your weary limbs, your thoughts drift to the melancholy song of the wind through the brancaser lulling sound that hummed in lullabies to banish the day's fatigue. The fire provides a lens to both reflect on the day's trials and preparations for tomorrow's journey. Despite these comforts, the night's mysteries are never truly quelled. They lurk just outside the ring of firelight in the eyes of creatures and the whisper of leaves. There's a humor again in pondering the medieval traveler, watching an animal illuminated by his campfire, perhaps wondering if it's truly there, or merely a shadow of his own imaginings. As embers glow hotter and shadows deepen, your mind settles into the tapestry of night. The crackling fire, abstract conversations, or mumbled regrets become threads woven into evening's gentle wrap. The commune with those wood laid before is forever binding, a reflection of the shared journey in humanity's vast, echoing chambers. In embracing the stories, warmth, and shared experience bestowed by fire, recognize that here, under the forest's ancient stars, the heart of live encounters thrives, where even in aloneness, you participate in the eternal communion of all who have sat and will sit beside their fires. You allow the tranquility to wash over you, comforted by the thought of kindred spirits throughout time, cradled by these glowing embers, protected by the fire's gentle embrace. These fires assure you, shield, warm you, carrying the promise of life's continuity bound through millennia, flaring against the night's enfolding border. As drowsiness slips into the edges of your awareness, you know this campfire sends its warmth beyond the here and now. Allow the flames to lull you to sleep, casting dreams woven from ancient tales, blessing the path you'll follow when the dawn's light returns, ready to guide you through the tapestry of shadows and light in tomorrow's adventure. As the fire settles into a steady glow, casting long, flickering shadows on the forest floor, the atmosphere transforms into one ripe for storytelling, a timeless tradition that knits individuals together beneath the star-strewn canopy. In the medieval woodland, as the moon climbs higher and the woods cradle you in their nocturnal embrace, tales by moonlight emerge as both comfort and caution, beckoning you into realms of myth and memory. Envision the small gathering around your humble campfire, the faces illuminated by its warm light, and the night's cool breath whispering through branches overhead. Each storyteller becomes a bridge, an anchor to histories and fables rich with woven imaginings. They share stories etched into memory, each tale carrying the listener beyond the forest's immediate confines. The night air is filled with the scent of smoke, mingling with earthy undertones, sensory accompaniment to the words that hang in the air. You find yourself captivated by the cadence of each ensuing tale, where knights and legendary creatures step forward from shadows into the heart of the narrative. Here, legend intertwines with the lived reality of medieval existence, forming a seamless tapestry that spans both space and time. One tale might conjure images of valiant knights questing after treasures hidden deep within the forest's eldritch heart, their triumphs and trials reflecting the dreams and challenges of the medieval soul. A humour echoes here, something akin to the jest of a clumsy squire mistaken for his valiant knight, sharing merry mishaps in the fire's warmth. Historians still argue whether these fireside stories served more as a means of education or simply entertainment, or if their impact lay in mythologizing everyday experiences in a world where boundaries between reality and fantasy often blurred. Regardless, the tradition of storytelling was a potent vehicle through which culture and values were conveyed, imparting lessons veiled in allegory. Perhaps another tale unfolds, spun from the ghosts of long-lost travelers, wandering eternally through the moonlit woods in search of peace or redemption. The narrative unfolds with tendrils of melancholy, visiting motifs of longing and hope, resonating within those who listen as the moon casts its silvery gaze on their contemplative faces. Here, amidst the earnest telling, those who listen can silently ask questions. What drove those spectral figures? Why did they never find rest? Around this living circle, each face reflects unfading bonds drawn tighter through storytelling. The tales being retold aren't just for excitement or moral lessons. They affirm the individuality of each listener and the collective experience that ties people together across generations and beyond the forest's fringe. The night melds such stories into a serenade of connection, a sweet nod to adventure and the shared uncertainties of medieval life. It's easy to imagine these stories embracing comedic elements, fantastical mishaps like the bungling pilgrim chased by mischievous woodland fairies, sparks flying with laughter as sprites laugh along within the leaves. As tales wrap up and the speakers' voices grow softer, the evening's reverie settles into a peaceful communion shared beneath the sprawling branches that sweep the stars. The comfort of a shared tale lingers amidst the crackle of an undiminished fire, weaving a warm embrace around those gathered in this nocturnal patchwork of wandering truths. Allow yourself to reflect on how these stories have journeyed with humankind across the centuries, a singular thread reaching from wilderness campfire to digital hearth, showing how little the essence of shared experience has changed. The night folds gently around these words, binding them to memory for future retellings. As the air cools and the moon hangs high overhead, the forest around you slips into its serene lullaby, its whispers a gentle chorus echoing through your dreams. Nestled in the embrace of firelight and shadows, take solace in these tales, these moonlit narratives that cradle the earnest heart long into enchanted night. Rest now, in this quiet symphony shared through voices long past, where each narrative fragment slips into the awaiting embrace of slumberer tender accompaniment to humanity's unbroken story, tethered to the earth and sky, written under the watchful eyes of stars. As the tales of the night weave their way into sleep and dreams, the dawn returns to gently lift the veil of darkness. With the forest once again alive in hues of green and gold, you are ready to explore further into the woodland's heart. Here, you'll enter mystical glades and elusive path spaces that have inspired stories and legends as ancient as the trees themselves. Feel the thrill of mystery as your feet tread softly on a narrow track that winds its way between towering trunks and whispering fronds. The air is alive with possibility, charged with the scents of resin and fresh foliage. The forest breathes, offering glimpses of places where reality and the fantastic entwine, each clearing a portal, a land where the boundaries of the known and unknown are pleasingly blurred. Imagine stepping into one such glade, the sunlight filtering softly through the leaves to illuminate a dance floor of dappled shadows. It's a space untouched by time, where legends find their roots. Perhaps this is the kind of place villagers would have considered enchanted, sacred grove, or feasting ground for the fair folk, where offerings were left to appease unseen observers. The creak of ancient boughs might suggest quiet hymns, while a rustling breeze recalls whispered stories passed down through generations. Historians still argue whether these stories stemmed from genuine supernatural encounters or were the product of imaginations fired by isolation and awe. Nevertheless, they shaped the perception of the forest as a living, breathing entity, hosting myriad realms of magic and wonder. Laugh to yourself with the quaint thought of those who claim to have spotted unicorns or taken tea with woodland sprites, stories shared around medieval feasting tables, embroidered with each successive telling. The desire for explanation manifested through these tales reveals humanity's intrinsic curiosity about the essence of the natural world, as well as our deep-seated need to belong within it. Standing in what feels like the palm of the wood's hand, you sense how these mystical glades call to the innermost parts of the soul, explaining why they continue to beckon us. They present opportunities for inward reflection, teasing the imagination even as shadows flicker enticingly around the edges of vision. Here, in this ephemeral beauty, another whimsical outlook might arise. Picture a medieval forester tiptoeing cautiously, giving way to imaginations so lively they nearly trip him up among the tree roots, his wild stories a favorite at the local inn. Such adventures offer a cheerful reminder that while humanity seeks the solemn, the unexpected is no less a guide. Within the subtler paths and clearings lie tales of transformation imagery that speaks of old magic capable of altering the woodland landscape itself. The swirling mist, enveloping like an ancient shroud, might unveil hidden doorways or transport travelers to distant places in imagination's fold. Think now of pilgrims and wanderers who traverse these paths not just as a means of travel, but as journeys of discovery both external and internal. The lore of the land, sweating truths from twisted roots, lures venturesome souls towards self-transcendence, far from civilization's hum. As you wend your way through this enchanted landscape, let its quiet power seep into your being. Observe how the woods cherish their secrets, while gently inviting you to uncover meanings of power, both mythical and mundane. Every shaft of light on leaves becomes a whisper, every stride a note played in the forest's enduring song. Ultimately, this journey through glades and hidden paths returns you to the realization that magic is part of life's curious expression within nature's embrace. It draws together imagination, nature, and truth, offering a delightful portrayal of humanity's enduring romance with the unknown. As evening descends gently upon the woodland, you step from the glade back onto the main path, your spirit enriched by the wood's unseen fingertips. Whatever tales the night may hold, you tread forth under a sky flush with destiny and dreams, part of an ancient world mastered by none but savored by many. Remember this enchanting sojourn, for it stitches mythic dreams into reality's quilt, comforting with hints of otherworldly connections welling within us all. When you next return to the woodland's embrace, know that each mystic glade awaits with open arms, ready to share its secrets once more, and that within these wondrous creations lie not just sights, but whispers of the earth itself. As the day progresses and the sun casts a soft golden light through the canopy, you begin the journey back, prompted by the subtle cues and lessons of the woodland. Retracing your steps through the medieval forest requires as much skill and attention as venturing into its depths, for the path of return carries its own set of challenges and reflections. The trail beneath your feet is familiar, yet the forest shifts with time and season, making even well-trodden paths seem new. The scent of pine needles crushed underfoot mingles with that of damp earth, wafting up as a gentle reminder of the earth's cyclical nature. Each step resonates with the subtle crunch of leaves, an echo of countless footsteps before yours, guiding you with an almost imperceptible hand. While moving through this verdant tapestry, you glance at the sun's position, its descent measured not just in hours, but in shadow, sundial drawn by the branches above. The gentle slant of afternoon light becomes your compass, lighting the way back homeward with its steady glow. Historians still argue whether medieval travelers relied more on celestial guidance or the landscape's natural markers, but both played critical roles in determining safe passage. The quietude of travel allows for reflection on the day's adventures, the sounds, the scents, the encounters both real and imagined. You carry with you a mental map that blends memory and instinct, acknowledging how ancient wanderers honed their sense of direction through the woodland's living signs, knowing the subtle language of moss on the north side of trees, or the flight pattern of birds signaling proximity to water. There's an element of humor in the potential misadventures along the return path. Picture the medieval traveler, filled with tales of bravado yet fumbling his way back, relying on the conservation of instinct over bravado to prevent him from ending up further afield, or perhaps finding an unexpected shortcut that becomes an oft-told boast, embroidered each time it's conveyed. With each step homeward, the forest holds reminders of its enigmatic duality, where the familiar and unfamiliar coexist, encouraging introspection. The challenges faced on your journey out now form memories that ripple through your thoughts, weaving tales and life lessons into the very fabric of your understanding. As you move deeper into the familiar, the forest shifts subtly with progress, a path remembered, yet always subject to change with nature's will. These woodland paths serve as bridges between two spaces, between adventurer and home, between the reaches of imagination and the grounding of daily life. The playful trick of the mind's eye imagines a whimsical hunter retracing steps that once led him in circles, humorously puzzled and earnestly reflective, regaling village ears with tales of wandering gone awry, the brewer's cider smoothing the collective laughter. Approaching the edges of the forest, you come to realize this route reinforces community bondshow. Each traveler, in their own recollections or wanderings, shapes the collective understanding and shared experience of this woodland world. Therefore, every woodland tale isn't just a story, but a thread fastening individuals in a tapestry of camaraderie and continuity, unfurling from medieval times to today. The journey back serves as a beacon from the weightless castles of legend to hearth fires that temper myth with the grace of reality. The assurance of home pulls you forward, traversing the border where the forest's enchantment gently yields to the mundane comforts of familiar surroundings. Emerging from the wood, you leave behind the fluttering leaves and advancing shadows, stepping into the clear, open light that symbolizes both an end and a beginning. The life lessons garnered within the woodland's embrace remain etched within memory, guiding not only your feet but your heart. This path of return is a closure of sorts and assurance that while adventures will continue to unfold, both in the mind's eye and beneath the forest's boughs, the journey itself cycles ever onward. Whether day or night enfolds your steps, the promise of return revisits those realms where magic and reality meet. May you hold the lessons and laughter of the woodland dearly, letting them speak through dreams and stories, binding you ever more firmly to the timeless embrace of the medieval forest's wisdom and mystery. Such journeys home remind us that exploration doesn't end at the wood's edge. It carries forward, around firesides and into nights full of loved ones' warmth, where stories, though retold 1,000 times, never fade, each a new beginning, rooted in the path, the heart, and the whispering boughs. As you near the edge of the forest, the way home alters subtly from the dense sprawl of trees to a landscape interspersed with ancient relics, reminder of the past lives that once threaded through these woods. These relics, silent and often overlooked, are remnants of those who walked these paths before you. They offer both mystery and history, a tangible link to the everyday stories of medieval life left behind in stone and wood. Imagine stepping lightly through a clearing where the uneven ground reveals the outlines of an old foundation, perhaps the remnants of a wooden hut long reclaimed by the forest. A fragment of wall, a stone chimney smothered in creeping ivy, or a circle of stones that once held the warmth of hearth and home bear silent witness to lives lived at the mercy of nature's whims. Here the air is thick with the scent of moss and lichen, as if the forest itself breathes ancient memories. These relics whisper of livelihoods once eked out of the dense green, where woodcutters, charcoal burners, and other forest folk made modest homes. Historians still argue whether such structures were laid by settlers conquering wild lands or retreating from the tumult of encroaching civilization. Either way, they forge a connection to the human spirit, its resilience, and ingenuity evident in the remains of domesticity amidst wilderness. The forest grows hushed around these sites, as if in reverence to the quiet persistence of time. There's a treasure hunt thrill as you uncover the stories these stones might tell, the hearty laughter that may have once echoed here, feasts relished amid the trees, or whispered confidences shared under the watchful moon. You picture these places alive once more, with the bustling activity of daily survival. Humor might quirk at the idea that an ardent scholar, lost in reverie, may misinterpret an earthen dip as a medieval trash. Peter, poetically humorous take on how mankind's leftovers still keep secrets. Was this debris heap a depository of forgotten feasts, or the unceremonious extinguishing of an ancient cheese wheel? Beyond these structural remnants, pieces of pottery or tools often narrate tales themselves. A shard of glazed ceramic protruding from soil, a rusted bucket curled stubborn between tree roots, or a corroded belt buckle each artifact lends weight to the imagination, urging you to ponder its usage in the medieval world. Was it cast aside in a moment of despair, or left as a hasty offering to propitiate unseen deities dwelling among the oaks? These relics might speak wryly of the travellers whose paths converged here, each influenced by the forest's unpredictable scenery, mingling their narratives with the earth's history. One can nearly hear a chuckle at the thought of a medieval artisan ruefully recollecting the time he traded a fine clay jug for an impromptu drawstring bag to carry forest spoils, a story that might trickle down generations as a lively fireside tale. Nature's careful artistry entwines with man's imperfections, leaving time's tapestry woven with humour, hardship, and hope, resting delicately among pine needles and fallen leaves. These embedded fragments challenge your perception of the land not as just a mere backdrop, but as a partner in storytelling, generously scattered with plot points for the inquisitive. These stones stand not as mere monuments to the past, but as bridges to memory, sending rivulets of reflection into the present. As you trace a path back toward the forest's edge, let these vestiges of history raise questions as much as they offer answers. Consider the rounded clay, the cool stone, the rough-honed wood. They endure alongside the infinite fable woven throughout the Foresta script, yet to be unraveled complete. As you step back onto the sunlit paths that signal the exit from this venerable green sanctuary, these reliquaries of the past become constellations upon the expanse of your imagination. Each holds promise within, like stars amidst shadows, casting light where time stands still and waiting to share the wisdom and whimsy of ages. Carry with you their lessons and curios, knowing that within each is a fragment of consciousness, a spark from stories long spun, shadowed in antiquity, but set forth anew in all who encounter these sacred whispers of the forest's time-worn lore. As you emerge from the dense thickets of history into the light of a new understanding, you begin to contemplate the stark contrasts between medieval survival techniques and modern conveniences. The delicate artistry, innate resourcefulness, and deep-rooted connection to nature that characterize the past are juxtaposed against the backdrop of our technological age, offering profound insights into the evolution of human resilience. Imagine standing at the boundary between two worlds, a bridge between centuries. In the medieval woodland, survival hinged on a finely tuned balance of instinct and knowledge, passed orally and practically across generations. The smokehouses, carefully tended gardens, and seasonal rhythms dictated actions often guided as much by lunar phases as by daylight. Today, that intimate bond with nature has transformed significantly. The digital age brings with it tools that astonish with their capabilities. Smartphones and GPS devices replace the instinctual navigation of stars and shadows. Historians still argue whether contemporary reliance on technology has strengthened or weakened our survival instincts. Yet, the dialogue between past and present facilitates an understanding of our shared quest for adaptation and success. When recalling medieval lives forged by necessity, humor interplays between the image of a medieval gatherer deftly identifying edible plants stands in contrast to modern counterparts who might wield apps to distinguish a chanterelle from a mere mushroom imposter. Both scenarios unfold life's essential comedy and survival's persistent narrative. Consider the preparation of food. Where medieval folk relied on the tactile, sensory knowledge of when bread was baked perfectly from flames licking the hearth, modern ovens present controlled convenience. While today's culinary practices are garnished with precision, the raw, primitive satisfaction of a meal wrested directly from forest yields echoes through time. The arching bridges of communication through firelit tales have given way to the vast networks of digital narratives, storytelling delivered at unfathomable speeds to a global community. And yet, their essence remains unchanged. The shared humanity seeking to connect, to convey meaning, aspirations, and dreams across barriers of experience and geography. Farming methods, once intricately aligned with the natural order, required a profound awareness of the land. Such awareness allowed medieval farmers to predict the yield of harvests based on shifts in wind patterns or a sudden abundancy of pests. Today, agri-tech embraces solutions unimaginable then, yet the elemental need persisto, understand the earth as deeply as the heart understands the beat. Picture humorous missteps possible in both schemes. A medieval farmer attempting irrigation by trial and error, or a modern horticulturist accidentally triggering complex irrigation systems when accidentally tapping a button. In these acts, mankind's quest to triumph over environment results in stories that evoke laughter, humility, and progress. As you ponder these juxtapositions, recognize how survival itself is a constantly evolving story, woven through humanity's shared lineage. The technology that transforms our understanding of the present carries traces of ancestral wisdom-eke innovation, weighted with the echoes of those who once turned raw resource into refined need. In the end, you come to appreciate that regardless of era, survival is an art where history's brushstrokes blend seamlessly with modern design, each contributing to a fuller picture of resilience across time's continuum. The forest that once sheltered medieval souls from nature's whims now provides a backdrop for the imaginative flights of the digitized world. Drawn back from the forest's edge, into realms bright with contemporary light and understanding, know that within the fabric of survival lies the strength of creativity, past and present, united, beckoning forward paths yet unwritten, where knowledge illuminates each step taken anew. Wherever this journey leads, whether nature or technology shepherds you forward, let it be suffused with the lessons and laughter of centuries, remembering that within every breath of progress lies timeless patterns of survival, the gift and story of humanity bound in concert between the trees, across ages, casting visions of tomorrow's promise upon today's endeavored heart. As the twilight deepens and stars begin to sprinkle the canopy above, you delve into a narrative shaped by challenge and ingenuity, a tale of forest famine and the feasts improvised by resourceful medieval folk. In an era where scarcity could loom without warning, the medieval woodland served as both a haven and a crucible, testing one's ability to harness every available resource. Imagine a season where the forest yields are scant, the paths you tread more barren than bountiful. Here, ingenuity and adaptability spark the flame of survival. The air is crisp, with the scent of impending frost sharpening your awareness of dwindling supplies. You feel the pulse of the forest, and your senses heighten to the pressure of gathering enough while nature is still generous. In times of scarcity, you'd find a medieval community drawing upon communal strength families, banding together to pool resources and knowledge. Mushrooms and acorns, once supplementary, take on new importance as dietary staples. The forest reveals those hidden nooks where nettles and wild garlic might persist, transforming them into provisions that patch the gap's hunger claws. The art of preservation, a skill passed down through generations, became all the more critical. Historians still argue whether these methods were more integral to physical survival or as communal rituals strengthening social bonds. Yet, their practice speaks to both realms, illustrating the intersection of planning and pragmatism. Salt, smoke, and drying racks become ubiquitous in this survival. Dance-preserving meat during times of game abundance ensures winter sustenance. Imagining lines of fish hanging like faded pennants beneath eaves or strips of venison, smoking over damp wood, brings to mind medieval kitchens bustling with shared efforts, laughter ringing around the fragrant hearth. Amid this struggle lies humora balm that eases the mundane and traction of repetitious labor. Envision a scene where the young might grumble playfully about nettle soup's sting, only to transform it into lively competitions boasting who can consume the most, their raised hands daring the nettles to raise a welt. Consider, too, the creativity spurred by scarcity, turning of want into a canvas where flavors blend beyond expected conventions. Nut stews with wild herbs, berries fermented into vinegars that ripple through simplistic brews, transforming scarcity's constraint into a cradle of invention. Playful ingenuity doubles thrice all upon its tongue-cheeked backdroper, living dance of necessity. Medieval minds adored tales of aplenty, juxtaposed against years of trialtha prose, perhaps sprouting forth richly festooned with tales of abundance found in fairy rings or giants' travesatirical shadows, as much as plentiful. Praise. Tales where, despite adversity's firm grip, hope remained as a cornerstone within life's unyielding architecture. Images unfold through history, thrifty farmers' keening eye, overculled gardens becoming the toast of tales echoing through village halls. Perhaps even kings find themselves less astute when coaxed to taste nightly feast surprises sprung from apparently empty larders. As your mind wanders to modern parallels, where supermarket aisles shield us from scarcity's immediacy, slow moments draw awareness toward conservation culture and sustainable sourcing, shadows cast echoing ideas bred from long-laid grains. So, as the sensibility skips through history's brushstrokes, remind yourself towards the kinship, shared over age-old practice, shording memories where meals were carved from ingenuity, and laughter shared as abundantly as any harvest. In ancient rhythms laid bold beneath those forest-fringed veils, survival's brush returns amiable feats against famine's bristling veneer. It embraces celebration within communal bond-seach, morsel deeply savoured, echoing across twilight-bound silences into tomorrow's yearning hearts. Stitching once more, resilience's timeless thread, the medieval grace under life's challenging dance. As the night unfolds its inky tapestry above the ancient woodland, the air grows cooler, wrapping you in an embrace of quietude. The shadows deepen, casting the familiar forest into a realm of mystery, where every rustle and whisper takes on an enigmatic tone. This night is like no other a night, that seems determined to test your mettle, where every aspect of the medieval woodland conspires to remind you of its wild heart. The path before you disappears into the silvery glow of moonlight, a narrow ribbon winding through the trees like a meandering stream. There's a crispness to the air, infused with the earthy scent of fallen leaves and the loamy richness of the ground that stirs beneath your cautious steps. It's a stark reminder of the unpredictability of such landscapes, where a single night can unveil trials, long forgotten by those who traverse it in daylight. You feel a prickle of anxiety, one shared by countless souls before you medieval wanderers, who might have misjudged the path, or found themselves delayed by unforeseen misfortunes. The woodland at night seems to pulse with a life all its own, a sentinel that tests the resilience of those who walk under its boughs. Historians still argue whether the medieval fear of the dark was rooted more in superstition or legitimate threats, but the legacy of those nighttime journeys perseveres. Imagine the shifting silhouettes as branches sway under the nocturnal breeze. Shadows dance along your path, at once companions and tricksters, turning every shrub into a phantom figure. It's humor, though, that may keep you grounded, picturing a medieval traveller startled by his shadow, realizing that the spectre is none other than his cloak tossed in the wind. Suddenly, the call of a distant owl punctuates the silence, its haunting note reverberating through the trees like a ghostly echo. Every sound appears magnified, each mere crackle underfoot provoking a cascade of imagined threats. This symphony of the night, composed of countless hidden layers, reflects the forest's secretive natura realm where sight is traded for sound and the imagination runs freer. The path you follow seems to meander without end, looping in on itself like a mischievous trickster. Here, you must rely on intuition and the landmarks you etched into memory earlier in the day. Where modern navigation would fail, these ancient techniques draw from instinct honed over generations. The texture of the bark beneath your fingers, the gentle slope of the land, and the static songs of night creatures become your guiding star. The knowledge that each crack of a branch mimics stories told around fires about mischievous spirits may entertain a moment of comedic relief. Imagining a medieval woodsman recounting such tales, more for the jests they'll inspire than the chills they'll raise, would elicit shared chuckles among listeners, their laughter building a bastion against the encroaching darkness. Despite these challenges, a form of solace emerges. It is here, within this trial, that you feel most alive, connected with the past through this shared endeavor. Your senses, honed to sharpness by the thrill of the unknown, bring the forest to life in ways often dulled by familiarity and convenience. Weariness from the day's exertions mingles with the adrenaline of the night. As you grapple with the occasional stumble, the sting of the cool breeze acts as a persistent reminder to remain vigilant. Jokes and jests from those who learned lessons here echo in your memory, buffeting insecurities with an ironical smile, underscoring misadventures within a medieval heart's embracier, comic remembrance with the gravitas of centuries past. Finally, the silhouette of the forest begins to soften, and the promise of dawn's light whispers at the horizon, a gentle call toward tranquility. From the darkness emerges the beginning of a new day, threading its way into the tapestry of your experience. In this moment, you understand how the night, with its challenges and demands, tempers the spirit and fires the soul with resilience and introspection. As the morning light banishes the shadows of the woodland, your pace quickens, and humor finds you again. Perhaps inwardly you jest about narrating tonight's escapade with exaggerated valor, the missteps numbered among victories survived. You're reminded how a single night in conscious anticipation reshapes time into a cherished space, reminding you of history's unyielding dialoguea communion shared amidst shadow and light. With dawn's embrace, the secrets of the night recede, layering the mystery once more within the forest's depths. In the closing moments, grasp the night's lessons dearly. How a single trek under the stars imparts wisdom, timeless, and truth woven into humanity's perpetually unfolding story. Through the dense woodland that thrummed with echoes and grace, you find yourself more attuned, more connected. With every beat, the forest offered woven brightly within the tapestry beneath your heart. As the first light of dawn crests the horizon, the medieval forest shifts from the enveloping embrace of night toward the gentle possibilities of morning. Yet, as you take stock of your wearied limbs and the toll exacted by a day and night spent in the throes of nature, you're inundated with an acute awareness of the physical and mental fatigue that clings to you like mist to the trees. The previous day's adventurous wandering beneath the canopy, gathering sustenance, crafting shelter, facing the woodland shadows come back in waves of reflection. The forest, now bathed in the soft hues of morning, seems almost benevolent, as if acknowledging the toils of those who venture into its depths and confronting you with the stark contrasts between the known and the wilderness you navigate. You rest against the rough bark of an ancient oak, feeling the contours that have stood as testament to time. The solidity of Nature's unyielding, ever-present force anchors you, even as your muscles betray moments of weariness. In these moments of pause, you contemplate how medieval foresters and villagers must have felt at the juncture of exhaustion and accomplishment. Here, endurance was the currency of survival, a measured balance between human will and the earth's ever-present challenges. Imagine those woodland inhabitants rising with the dawn, every fibre attuned to anticipating the rhythms of labour, the next felled tree, the forthcoming feast of famine, daily tasks doubled as trials hidden within expectations, shrouded by society's demands. Perhaps a chuckle escapes you, entertained by images of a medieval villager, equally taxed by labour, sharing woeful exaggerations by evening's fire commiserations infused with mirth over clumsy misadventures and nature's battering whims. The remedy, the laughter that knitted souls together, the mortar-binding community to eternal endurance. Historians still argue whether the challenges faced in the forest forged stronger bodies or merely exhausted spirits, crippled by relentless cycles. Regardless, the stories inscribed by these encounters convey a humanity that thrived through fortitude and laughter across even the direst hardships. Reflect on these trials as you take slow, thoughtful strides through earth blanketed in golden light, guiding you beyond tales spun by fire-cradled figures. Embrace the nights made edifying by stars within rustic companionship and the knowledge that the forest grants no easy rewards. Yet, amidst the fatigue, recognize another presencer, burgeoning appreciation for life imbued with resilience, nurtured through passages under canopies sprawling deep into past and present journeys. It invokes gratitude for the art of survival honed by tradition, enhanced across centuries through living tapestry of shared humanity. As the morning progresses, the fog of exhaustion gives way to a buoyancy likely felt by medieval wanderers after a night of trial. The forest floor feels softer beneath your feet, each step echoing the timeless rhythm of your ancestors, reminding you of resilience etched into the fabric of flesh and spirit. So too comes clarity, as your mind turns from weariness to renewal, a testament to your bond with the forest's ancient heart. Its lessons, distilled from challenges and discoveries, now threaded through the very core of your being. Your path unwinds, leading home, each footfall resonating with the reassurance of continuity. The stories of trials, laughter, and lessons learned entwine around you, a testament to strength born of challenge and celebrated through reflection. As you emerge from the woodland's embrace once more, Carry its whispers with you, the tales of those who tread before, and the truths offered generously beneath the trees. Their echoes ring through your heart, reminding you that even weariness transfigures into wisdom and hope. Allow yourself to acknowledge the tapestry of trials and triumphs, rich weave of history and perseverance, eternally cradled within the forest's verdant gasp. Knowing that this weariness, walked with courage and intertwined with nature's rhythm, seeds another step taken into the tapestry of life, intertwined with the world and whispering the profound beauty of shared existence. The story is yours to carry forward, wherever time and nature guide you next. As the sun climbs higher in the sky, casting a gentle warmth that envelops the medieval woodland, it's time to draw your journey to a reflective close. The forest, with its myriad lessons and infinite stories, has become a temporary home, one that has tested you while gifting you with wisdom and insight. With each step you take toward the edge of the forest, you feel a deep appreciation for the intertwining of history and nature, for the resonance of those who walked before you and those who will come after. The soft rustle of leaves underfoot provides a calming rhythm, soothing reminder of the lessons learned during your time amidst these ancient trees. In this moment, the forest feels both vast and intimate, a guardian of secrets and a repository of life itself. Each branch above seems to nod in understanding, acknowledging the passage of yet another traveler on a journey of discovery. As you move through the gently shifting patches of light and shadow, the tales told by campfires and echoed in the moonlight replay in your mind. You find solace in remembering the camaraderie of shared laughter, the silent communion with nature's mysteries, and the humility it inspired. This journey is a testament to the resilience that defines the human spirit, a reminder that every effort, every struggle, forges a strand in the great tapestry that binds us all. Feel the gentle embrace of the woodland breeze as it wraps around you, carrying whispers from the ages of hunters and gatherers, of storytellers and dreamers, of those whose imaginations have breathed life into every shadow along the path. The wind carries more than air. It carries the voice of the forest, a soft lament gently urging you to heed its lessons and woven eternally through time. Just as the forest has shaped those before you, it now shapes you. Slowly, gradual but with profound understanding, let the forest and its symphony become woven into the fabric of your memory, knowing that its echoes will follow as you continue onward. The dance of leaves above becomes a lullaby, encouraging you to embrace both past and present, to seek wisdom in your journey, and to chase the subtle dreams whispered beneath your steps. The forest's rhythm and resilience linger with you, even as you begin to leave its depths. Through your contemplative return, please feel how deeply touched you are by its quiet power, its secrets, and its invitation to explore the breadths of your soul. This medieval woodland has become more than a distant world. It's a testament to the wild heart of both earth and soul, entwined through history, a sanctuary that exists within, promising renewal and insight with each return. As you inch closer to the edge where woodland moves into open field, with whispers fading softly behind you, face forward into the light of new beginnings. While this chapter closes, it remains firmly impressed upon you, a gentle giant of wood and echo, imbued with life's breath, a story that dwells with you forevermore. May its peace be yours, now and through all tomorrows, with wisdom, laughter, and endurance elegantly braided throughout time's infinite expanse. Here lies the testament of your journey, eternal and whispering truth in the rustling leaves. Sweet dreams.